Welcome to Chalk Talk with Chuck. I'm Chuck. Thank you for all the listeners that are out there. Eric, Dom, my most dedicated listeners. Thank you, Holly, for editing the pod. Holly's my sister. She's a badass. Hire her if you're listening. As you probably know from the last pod, I lost a fuck ton of money on the Super Bowl. I mean a mountain of it. Not a great day for me. Now, did I stick to what I preached and not hedge? I did. Yeah. Halftime. Live bet double down. Chiefs. I was convinced. And I'm not going to apologize for being wrong about it. And here's why. Patrick Mahomes never lost by more than 9 points in his career. That's his first 9-point loss. Also, since Patrick Mahomes has started playing quarterback in the NFL, has never not had a game where his team scored a touchdown. Never. That's fucking insane. If he'd have won yesterday, he'd have had 2 Super Bowls before he had 10 NFL losses. That was his 10th loss. And I know, you keep listening to people talk on podcasts and on TV and everywhere that you can hear them talk about how obvious of a pick the Bucs was. Fuck you. Okay? There was nothing obvious about it. The Chiefs were -3. They were favorites. The Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes were the golden boys of the NFL, and they take one loss in the Super Bowl. And everybody crucifies them? It's just annoying. Because if they win, then everybody's talking about how obvious it was that they were going to win because they have Patrick Mahomes. And guess what? If not for 2 drops, 3, 4 drops in this game, I think the score is different. I don't think they win because obviously offensive linemen are important. And we don't talk about them enough as fans. Every now and then we fanboy over a group of offensive linemen like what had happened in Dallas. But man, they lost too many guys on the line, and it looked like every play Patrick Mahomes was running for his life. And I think there was a stat that came out that said he was rushed on 38 of his dropbacks at some point in the game. Even at the end, that's insane. You're not going to win. But he's got the diving throw near completion thing on 4th and 9 in the red zone. And Andy Reid, man. What the fuck was that timeout at the end of the second half? And they jump off sides on the field goal. Think of how different the game is if 2 things don't happen. 1, the Chiefs don't jump off sides on that field goal on the drive before the end of the half, where they had the interception and there's the hold call. And I know the penalty thing was a little weird. It just seemed like the Chiefs weren't disciplined. I know that some of those were tic-tacky calls. It seemed a little unfair. And sure, in every game, refs play somewhat of a factor. That's their job, is to play a factor in calling penalties. And they definitely... There's a massive disproportion in penalty yards. I've got it written down. Kansas City had 11 for 120, and Tampa had 4 for 39. You don't like to see that kind of difference in a Super Bowl. You just don't. It's got to be like the 3rd most penalized game. I think somebody said the 3rd most penalized Super Bowl of all time. You just don't want to see that. And it sucks. It sucks to see that happen. But at the end of the day, I think everyone's in agreement that that's not why the Chiefs lost. Here's why the Chiefs lost. They were lined up in the neutral zone on a field goal. Okay, bad. Gave Tom Brady the ball again. Can't do that if you want to beat him. Right? So instead of 10-6, it's now 14-6. And the Chiefs get the ball back. They have to punt. After they punt, they feel like they've got to try one more time for the end zone. So Andy Reid calls one of the worst 3rd down, first half, end of the half timeouts I've ever seen. Okay, so you call timeout there. let's say you do stop them, which obviously they don't. They go long to Mike Evans, and the corner clearly trips him. Debate whether the ball's catchable or not, go for it, but there's clearly contact. And then they go to score the touchdown. Okay, so now it's 21-6. But if he doesn't call that weird touch, so you call a timeout, and if you get the stop, what do you have, the ball with under a minute, no timeouts on your own 25? Best case scenario, they kind of fuck the punt up and it's on like your own 35, 40. Maybe you get 3 the way they're getting pressure on you. Who knows? I just don't see the reasoning behind that, and it's not being talked about enough, so I'll talk about it. Andy Reid's son gets in a car accident. He's had a few beers in him and Adderall. The people that he struck driving under the influence of something, allegedly, I'm not going to convict him now, had a child in the back who's in a coma. Okay. Son's facing felonious charges. Some things are bigger than the game. There's a person who I talk to about the games all the time who does not want to be named, so I'm going to call him, I don't know, we wanted to call him Q, because eventually I think he'll come on the podcast and it'd be funny to do like a QAnon joke. But I'll come up with a nickname for him. But miscellaneous person that I love to talk to sports about who doesn't want to be named on the podcast, you know, who's worked in professional sports before, said that he's coached in professional sports, said that some things are just bigger than the game. And he was right. That's just bigger than the game. And you've got to sometimes, just step away. Andy Reid, hey, your son's facing felony charges. Let the enemy make the play calling. If you're not there 100% for the Super Bowl mentally, which I just looking at the game plan, looking at how things executed, I just don't think Andy Reid was there 100%. And if you're not for the Super Bowl, the fans, the players, yourself, the organization, they deserve to let you hand that off. We're all talking about how Bieniemy is going to be a great coach. Give him a crack. I know it's a Super Bowl, but if you're not 100 and he is, let it happen. And I don't know where Andy Reid is mentally, and I know the mentality in the NFL is, we got a game, that's what we're focused on, leave the rest of it out. But hey, as a son of a defense attorney, I know how hard it is, and I've seen how hard it is for families dealing with those issues. And I'm not making excuses for the Chiefs. The offensive line play was awful. But if you're looking for one, that's one right there. I feel bad for Andy Reid. And he's going through it right now. And I'm sure when the game ended, he wasn't thinking about the loss, he was thinking about his son. And I'm sure he's thinking about his son right now, as he should be. And it's unfortunate, but I do think that played a factor. I do. Whether it was large enough to have the impact it appeared to me to have on the game, I don't know. I've never been a professional athlete, obviously, and I've never competed at a level like that. But, I couldn't be 100 at work if that had happened to my brother. If he was, facing years in prison. So, yeah. That's a little bit of my 2 cents on the game. I'm going to get into some stats stuff that I thought was really interesting as I was just scrolling the never-ending, media that followed this game. And I went to the stat sheet for the team stats because I wanted to get the yardage. And I just found out that this game, on paper, looks pretty fucking close, minus the turnovers. So, on third down, Kansas City, 3 for 12. Tampa Bay, 4 for 12. Or 4 for 11, I think, maybe. I wrote 12 here, but that just doesn't seem right. Okay, so one conversion difference on third down. Pretty weird. Just doesn't even seem right. It doesn't seem right, but I think I'm right. Time of possession. Kansas City 28, Tampa Bay 31. 3 minutes, that's it. Red zone trips. Kansas City had 3, Tampa Bay had 5. Kansas City doesn't get to the red zone that often. Well, I mean, they get to the red zone all the time, but, they score a lot of touchdowns outside of the red zone. If you're just looking at this, I mean, obviously you get to the turnovers, okay, then it's 2-0. But it seems like a lot of this was lost over, essentially just the inability for Kansas City to keep pressure off of their quarterback. But Mahomes throws for 350 yards. Tom Brady throws for 340. But here's where the stats are very similar from this game, right? First downs, 22 for Kansas City, 26 for Tampa Bay. Only a 4 first down difference. Didn't feel like that when you look at the 9-31 score. Each team has 12 passing first downs. Kansas City has 7 rushing. And Tampa Bay has 8 rushing. So passing and rushing first downs, pretty equal. 1 off. Third down efficiency, Tampa Bay is 4 for 12, and Kansas City is 3 for 13. Not that big of a difference. Fourth down efficiency, Tampa Bay's 1 for 3. Kansas City's 1 for 3, Tampa Bay's 0 for 1. Total plays, Kansas City is 6 more, 69-63, and there's your 69 stat of the day, folks. Somewhere PFT's out there smiling. Yards, 350 for Kansas City, 340 for Tampa Bay. I mean, it's similar. And then where the difference comes is in penalty yardage and penalty first downs. Because there were 3 penalty first downs for Kansas City and 6 for Tampa Bay. But like I said, no one is convincing me that the refs played the solo hand in this game and handing it over to Tampa Bay. It's just, you're not going to convince me of that. I mean, I know what I just presented feels that way, but at the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes couldn't throw the ball. He didn't have the time to do it. And they kept only doing, 5 lineman dropbacks. I don't get it. Hey, Patrick Mahomes can barely breathe. Put in a blocking tight end and running back. Fuck. I mean, those are the moments in the game where you go, Andy Reid probably shouldn't have coached. So I missed every prop that I put down because I pretty much had Travis Kelce scoring in every single one of my props. The only one I didn't was the Pat special. And the sneaky prop, which had Mecole Hardman scoring and Scotty Miller scoring. None of that shit happened. I mean, the sneaky prop was a long shot, but the closest prop I had was the freaking Pat special, and all I needed when they wouldn't give the ball to playoff Lenny and they gave those 3 carries to Rojo on the fucking goal line was for them to just once turn around and let Tom Brady QB sneak it in, and I would have won money, and it all would have been worth it. Because I'd have won at least one fucking bet, but instead, no. Instead, I've got to fucking sit there and watch them, 2 touchdowns to fucking Gronk. Gronk scored 1. Let Brady get 1. Let's get the Pat special going. Oh well. Lost a lot of money. So be it. Sometimes you lose money gambling. That's how it goes. But if you don't think I didn't punish myself, you're wrong. I punished myself in probably the worst way possible, and that was by watching whatever the Fox version of First Take with Skip Bayless is. I watched Skip Bayless. I watched it on YouTube and through a third party because I don't want to give Skip Bayless any money. But yeah, I watched him gloat. And then I watched his Instagram, and I watched his Instagram story, and I looked at his Twitter. I did the whole fucking thing. Now, I didn't like and I didn't share because we don't do that. But fuck, man. That was probably the most painful punishment I've ever dished out to myself. You know how much pride I had to fucking swallow to watch him in a Tom Brady jersey rubbing and gloating it in my face that he knew. And then here's the worst part. So I'm watching what is this fucking show on Fox? I don't know. With Shannon Sharper or Shannon Sharp, fuck me. Um Sharper. With Shannon Sharp and whoever the fuck it is. That guy's an idiot too. They're both on there and they're congratulating Skip Bayless for the win. Hey, no. He didn't do anything. Hey, no. All he did was proclaim the greatest was gonna still be the greatest. Ew. It's not a fucking hot take. It doesn't fucking count. That's not sports talk. That's fucking garbage. And I've got to watch, and if you don't think that I didn't watch every minute of it, you're wrong. I watched him walk out there and point to the name on the back of his shoulders. He had a Brady jersey on. He's doing the double thumb point to the back. Anytime you're a full-grown adult and you're doing the double, thumb point to the back of the jersey, you've absolutely lost your fucking mind. Hey, are you at a tailgate trying to make it on to the beginning of the, Sunday night football game? Quick, fan thing where they pan to the fans in the tailgate? Oh, you're not? Okay, don't do the jersey point thing. And even then, only do it if you've had a few cocktails. It's unacceptable. The double name point with the thumbs to over the shoulder to pointing at your back is unacceptable. And I watched Skip Bayless do it several times. He's lost his mind. He's not even a Tampa fan. God, it drives me through the roof when people think that they're the fucking shaman of sports, the predictor, the someone with a third eye in their forehead, because they said Tom Brady's going to win the Super Bowl. He's got 7. 12% of the time in the whole history of the Super Bowl, you're going to be right. That's pretty fucking good odds. He's the greatest winner ever. In any sport. It's like he and Serena. You throw Jack in there too. But right now, he's the greatest. The greatest. You're not... Oh, I'm so mad. And I forced myself to do that, by the way. You think I wanted to do that? Because if Kansas City wins that game, no way I'm turning that on. Because then you're just going to get Skip talking about, other shit that's not relevant. But no, I had to sit there and watch him gloat and do the double thumb point. Mentally ill. It's the best way to describe him. And maybe we should start a fund to get him into a good home. A good home. I don't want to send him somewhere shitty, because then he'll just complain. But let's get him one, like where they provide slippers, and, they have nice mattresses, and every day there's activities. I'm sure he'll want to be an organizer, and we'll let him be an organizer, and we'll get tweets about how he's helping the home that he's staying at. But let's find him a good place to stay. Because there's no way he's there 100%. He's definitely hitting senile. The fucking double thumb point to the back for the team that isn't even your team. I watch him throw jerseys in trash cans. How disrespectful is that? Forget about everything else. Throwing Ezekiel Elliott jerseys in the trash can, and then, he goes for 150 yards and he takes it out and wears it, and then vigorously sucks his cock for the next 12 hours of the week on his shitty program. Oh, So yeah, as you can tell, I punish myself thoroughly for giving out bad advice. and for losing a bunch of money. I hope I never have to do that again. Oh, it was awful. Super Bowl was bad too, and it sucks when the end of the season is a game where one of the teams doesn't even score a touchdown and the other scores a bunch. I had to watch Antonio Brown score a touchdown in the Super Bowl. That hurt. God, karma doesn't exist in the NFL. It doesn't. Antonio Brown has literally done everything wrong by the books. Everything. He overcame it all. All of his horrible decision making, from the throwing shit off his balcony and almost killing someone's kid, to the sexual assault allegations, to the weird tweets about Roger Goodell, to the fake retirement, to the foot thing. All of that, man's got a ring. Going to the Hall of Fame. Unbelievable. I mean, he is so talented. But it hurt. It hurt to see him, when not only win the Super Bowl, but fucking catch a touchdown in it. It was cool to see Gronk and Brady turn the clock back. Do the 2 touchdown thing. God, I hated watching Gronk as a Steeler fan. He fucking torched us for a decade. He did the pointing laugh thing. Oh. He's so fucking good. He's such a goofball, too. I mean, he looks like an idiot, but he's clearly well-branded himself. God. Bummer. What a bummer for the season to end on that note. Because you do. You want to see, like, it go down to the wire and, Brady, Mahomes, who's going to have the ball last, who's going to score the final touchdown, who's going to do it. And just the offensive line was too beat up. Repeating in the NFL, repeating really in any sport is pretty hard to do. I know that it happens in the NBA semi-frequently, if not fairly frequently. But the NFL, it's just tough. It's so physical. And not only that, getting to the Super Bowl is such an anomaly. I mean, those Tampa guys last year. Think about all those guys on Tampa Bay's defense, offense last year that played with Jameis Winston. That probably thought, man, we have every piece possible to go to the Super Bowl, but our quarterback threw 30 picks. 30. All we're missing is a quarterback who can run this offense effectively. And then getting to the big game. I mean, the very next season with Tom Brady, the GOAT, they had to be so hungry. And I think that's the part that I slept on the most. And it's honestly a lesson that I just learned. I just learned this lesson as a gambler. Because I've only started gambling very recently. But I just learned this lesson, and that is, hey, look. If the other team has already been there and was just very recently there, evaluate how hungry the other team's going to be. Especially in the NFL. Repeat hasn't happened since Philadelphia. Now, did Mahomes feel special? He did. Did he feel like, yeah, maybe he's that guy? He did. But I think there was an undeniable, hunger from the Tampa Bay team. And Todd Bowles did a hell of a job. And Byron Leftwich did a good job. I mean, they out-coached and they won the battle in the trenches. You're going to win a lot of games if you do that. Tom wasn't like magnificently creative, and he didn't throw for the most yards he's thrown in a Super Bowl. But man, they beat the fucking tar off of him. To not let Patrick Mahomes score a touchdown is pretty immaculate. Fuck, if you could give the MVP to anybody, give it to Todd Bowles. Hot fucking take, I know, but Jesus. Now Tom Brady has 5 Super Bowl MVPs. Let that one sink in real quick. 5 Super Bowl MVPs. You want to know what that is? As many Super Bowls as the Dallas Cowboys have. Yeah. As many as the Dallas Cowboys. All right, I think that's enough of the Super Bowl. You're all going to get a lot of this for a long time. So the off season is starting, and free agency and the draft, and hopefully I can figure out how to do like phone call-ins and stuff. I'm still working on that. Very new to all of this, but I've got a buddy out in Utah who is just a freak with the fantasy football stuff. We both won our respected leagues this year, and we were working on a spreadsheet a little bit together. It's like 99.9% him. I came into his house, during Christmas break, and we went over it and looked at it. And I want to bring him on and just talk about fantasy football. Maybe we'll do that pod in a while. All right. Second half of this pod, or the next couple of minutes of this pod is going to be dedicated to what I've seen from the NBA so far. And I have League Pass, so I've been watching a lot of games. Started watching a lot of games last week, and I was watching games before, but just not as actively as I've been watching games now. And I'm from Utah, as I've said before, and I'm a Jazz fan. Big Jazz fan, too. Been a Jazz fan my whole life. There was a stretch of time where I cheered for the Thunder when they had Russ, KD, and James Harden, and went to the finals because the Jazz were just fucking garbage. And when your team's that bad, especially in the NBA, feels like it's going to last forever because the season's so goddamn long. So I cheered for the Thunder. And I loved Kevin Durant. Fucking, he ruined that. He ruined that one pretty quick. He had a lot of fans when he was in OKC. He could have really gone to any other place other than Golden State, and I still love the guy. But the Golden State move just really fucking put a shitty taste in my mouth. He's a great player. Regardless of where he goes, he's allowed to make those decisions. I don't care. I'm just saying that it just kind of ruined my love for him and that team. But, primarily a Jazz fan. Continue to be a Jazz fan. And it's been exciting to watch them this year. It's been exciting. Here's the thing, and it's not going to get talked about enough because they're a small market. And what I'm thinking about doing as we transition into the NBA is doing, maybe a 15 to 10 minute segment dedicated every week to some of the small market NBA teams, because not a lot of people talk about Milwaukee for having, the 2-time MVP. And nobody talks about Indiana, and they make the playoffs every year. And nobody talks about Utah, and they're the number one team in the West. If you want to hear somebody talk about Utah, they got to play a bigger market team. And then we got to talk about why the bigger market team wasn't able to beat them. Why they were a good test for them. And, and then you hear things like, well, Donovan Mitchell's a baller, but they're not going to make the finals. Or why does it feel like they can't be LA? Hey, you know what? As a fan of a small market team, especially the Utah Jazz, just happy to be here. Just happy to be here. It's fun. It's fun when your team's the best team in the NBA. We look a hell of a lot like the Atlanta Hawks in 2015. But it's fun. And I'm enjoying myself. Getting a kick out of it. Jazz are never this good. They always start slow, starting fast. Their superstars always seem to have off nights. Donovan's not taking a night off. Rudy Gobert's playing at an elite level. They're a good fucking team. I've watched a lot of basketball. They're a good fucking team. Not enough to be like, hey, I can confidently say that they're better than the Lakers because I can't. And I can confidently say that they're better than the Bucks because I can't. But I think they might be better than the Bucks. We play them the next upcoming game. But I watched the Boston game last night. We beat Boston. And I know Boston's not, I think they're like floating just above 500, but they got Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and, Kemba Walker, and they get more press than anybody because they've got such a huge fan base. And the Jazz beat the tar off of them. Donovan Mitchell just put his fucking foot on their throats in the fourth quarter. And so that's the flaw with basketball, is you just don't get the small market, glow up. The NFL schedule is so well structured and the fan bases are so vibrant for every team that really, when you talk about any team, you're going to get good coverage. Now, are there teams that don't get a lot of coverage because they kind of deserve it? Yeah. But if you're winning in the NFL, you get a lot of fucking coverage. If you're the Indianapolis Colts and you're winning games, you're on every Sunday night. And your superstars are on all the commercials. It's not the case for the NBA. It's just not. The Jazz are playing the best basketball, and they're just starting to get national TV coverage. The Jazz are playing good basketball, and Donovan Mitchell's really only on local commercials. It's just different that way. It really is. So I'm going to try to do service to those teams by, doing, a small market 15-minute little bit of ranting about why the team isn't getting enough coverage, talk, deep dive into small market teams because they deserve it. And no one else is really doing it. And I know it might, ding the views a little bit, or listeners aren't going to want to hear about it because they're going to want to hear me talk about Tibbs and the Knicks, or, Braun and the Lakers, but fuck you. Go somewhere else to get that. You want to hear about Steph Curry? Literally go to every other basketball podcast. I'll talk about him here, obviously, because he's electric, but I'm just going to try to set the stage for you right now about what my basketball pod's going to be like. Because as a fan of a small market team growing up, I think it's important to give them the attention they deserve. Denver deserves more attention. They don't get enough of it. And they're our rival and I don't like them, but they deserve more attention. Phoenix deserves more attention. They have Chris Paul, and it just feels like nobody's even looking at them. And I'm going to give it to teams that deserve it, right? If you're a tanking small market team like Minnesota, figure it out. Figure it out. You've let Karl Anthony Towns become such a bum. You've let Karl Anthony Towns go from voted to be the number one guy GMs would want in the NBA to a cancer. You know what he lacks? Edge. He's not rough around the edges. He doesn't have a chip on his shoulder. And I feel for him because his family had a hard time with COVID. And I know it's hard to shit on a guy when he's gone through a lot of bad stuff. And I don't think it's entirely his fault. I blame a little bit of it on the culture in Minnesota. Because it's trash. Trash. D'Angelo Russell went from being an all-star. And I know he's an all-star in the East and yada, yada, yada. But being an all-star to a guy whose name I never hear anymore. The basketball market there is terrible. New Orleans, figure it out. No one ever... They have Zion, like the most sought-after young guy in a very long time in the NBA. A very long time. And no one ever talks about him because the market's awful there. Go to Seattle. The New Orleans Pelicans and their fans can flame me all they want. Have one of the worst cultures in sports. And it doesn't make any sense because New Orleans is a happening town. It's just a football town, really. And the city just hasn't taken to them. They tried the renaming thing, didn't work. New color thing, didn't work. But I'm going to give Charlotte a little bit of time. Charlotte's playing fucking awesome. I doubted LaMelo Ball. He's playing great. So I think that's what I want this to be. Obviously, there's going to be gambling takes. And speaking of which, I'll give you my takes for, the games, some of the games that I think that are going to be good to bet on. The Jazz keep covering, but I'm going to refuse to bet on them because they keep covering. And I'm not betting on them. But for Thursday, Celtics coming off a long road trip, and they got to host the sort of tough Raptors. I'll take the Raptors over the Celtics. Blazers play in Philadelphia on TNT at 10 o'clock my time, so 8 o'clock Mountain West time and 9 o'clock. You can do the math, 7 o'clock California time. And I know there's another time zone in between there, but fuck that time zone. I like the Sixers to get revenge against the Blazers. And the Pacers to beat the Pistons for Thursday. Then the Magic Warriors game, I don't know. Magic look really bad. You probably are pretty safe going with the Warriors, but there's always one weird fucking game in the NBA every night, and I'm not touching the Heat or the Rockets for a very long time. Friday, Bucks Jazz, not going to touch it, but you go ahead and bet that however you want. Timberwolves Hornets, take the Hornets. Knicks Wizards. What are the odds Tom Thibodeau starts Derrick Rose in this game? God, he loves that dude. I don't know. The Wizards are trash. Betting against them, you're going to have like a 90% success rate. That team's so fucking bad. I live in D.C., and it sucks to see them this bad. Take the Lakers against the Grizzlies, obviously. Nuggets against the Thunder. Nuggets. Although Al Horford looks sick for the Thunder, huh? God, he looks good. I can't wait to do a little deep dive on them for 15 minutes because the Thunder are just fascinating with how many draft picks they have. Mavs Pelicans. I don't know if I touched that game, but if I had to, somebody put a gun to my head, Mavs. But they look fucking sick. Clippers, Bulls, Clippers. Here's a couple of things that I have also just noticed after going through those quick little picks there. Make of those what you wish. Here's a couple of things that I think about this NBA season. Coming in this season, I was super high on Luka Doncic. I like him. I like the way he plays. Or I did like the way he played. I like the way he played in the playoffs last year. I like kind of what I thought they were doing in Dallas was good. I watched this great interview with Mark Cuban, or listened to this great interview with Mark Cuban and Bill Simmons, where, Cubes essentially says, Luka's great, and we're always going to have a chance because this kid just has a drive and he wants to win. And I bought in. I made a $100 bet with my friend that he was going to win the MVP. It just seemed to me to be the next step in his career logically, was that he was going to be a very serious contender for the MVP this year. And the wheels have just fallen off in Dallas in a really weird way. They're shooting one of the league's worst three-point percentages. Can't win now with that. Porzingis looks like a shell of what we thought he could be. A shell of what we thought he could be. I thought he would be so good. I had so much on his upside, and he just doesn't look the part this year. He's supposed to be the 2 in the 1-2 punch there, and he looks like a 5 or a 6 half the nights. He looks like he doesn't know where he wants to exist on the court. He'd look, am I a 3-point shooter or am I a post guy? Am I a second option or am I a fourth? Am I a corner 3 guy? It's like, dude, the guy just doesn't look like he knows where he or what his role is. And I don't know if that's a Carlisle thing, but it feels like it's not. Feels like he just is existing in a purgatory there. I mean, part of the challenge with a guy like Luka is he casts a big fucking shadow. And you're probably not going to exist very far outside of it, if ever, if you're the second guy in those teams. But you know what? So does LeBron fucking James. And that's the caliber we've been talking about Luka being. It is. I'm not saying that is the caliber of the player that he is or is going to be, but it's the way that we talked about him. And it's the way that I really viewed him. I viewed him as like, God, perfect build, great vision, plays like a pro. And you know what? He's 22. He's going to make mistakes. And I think right now the way he's playing is bad. He looks to be padding stats, taking a lot of shots, not very efficient. Those kinds of things I don't like. But then you look at what's going on around him, and it's like the second best shooter on this team is Tim Hardaway Jr. Not good. Not good. Max Kleber or whatever that guy's name is. Oh, I can't stand watching that dude. Plays a lot of big minutes. Takes a lot of big shots for that team. Not good, guys, what's going on in Dallas. And it sucks because Luka's so exciting. And he really, to me, is one of the best young players in the league. And it's hard to watch him, devolve a little bit. Or not him devolve, but the situation around him crumble the way it's crumbled. Obviously, when you have a young superstar, you want that situation to be as good as possible. You want guys that are going to support him in the best way, or you're going to end up like a Devin Booker situation in Phoenix, where you have this guy that everyone thinks is really good. And honestly, Luka's obviously better, but situations like that are gonna be, poor for the league if it continues. Yeah, it's tough, man. Uh, Obviously the Jazz are red hot. The Lakers are awesome, and man, LeBron James MVP, hands down. What he's doing at his age, given the short off season, which one of my buddies is always arguing with me that doesn't really matter. I think it does. It's really affected a lot of other teams. It just doesn't matter to LeBron. The guy is a fucking beast. God, he is so good. It is so annoying. And he's killing it right now. What he's doing in LA is very Brady-esque. We'll see what happens. And you know what he's done as a brand ambassador for the NBA is? He's become the leader. Did you see what Giannis said about the All-Star game? He pretty much said, follow the leader. LeBron's the guy. If he's upset, we're upset. Awesome. That is so fucking cool, man. He's great. And LA's great. And I love what Marc Gasol gives them. I know that he's not the post presence defensively that Dwight Howard was, but the way he can move the ball, and the way he can pass as a big is so unique and utilitarian. He's such an important utility to a team like the Lakers. And it's a really good plug and play guy. I love what he brings. He's just, what a unique career arc. In the grit and grind in Memphis, doesn't really work out, gets traded to Toronto, wins an NBA title, is a big part of what they were doing there last year too. Somehow stumbles his way into LA and just kind of finds a way to make it work. He was a defensive player of the year, so you're not losing a lot of value on the defensive end in a lot of in a lot of other ways. But he's good. He's a good player, and LA is in such good hands. And I don't know how any team really beats them, especially when LeBron decides to turn it all on and play at his full strength. But they're really good. The Clippers are doing well, as expected. They have two of, the top 25 guys in the league, one of the top, arguably 7 to 5 in Kawhi Leonard, probably top 5 guy. They're playing great. Anytime that you have one of those guys, you're just going to be expected to be good. And Denver was finding its strides, losing games, playing around 500. They lost some really key role players. Jeremy Grant was a huge loss for them. Huge. He guarded Donovan decently. Donovan averaged 35 in that playoff series. But what he brought in the Clippers series was far more important. Losing him hurt. And it's showing. And obviously Jokic is just a beast. He's so good. The way he can pass and the way that he can score, and the only really weakness in his game is the fact that he doesn't appear to really care about defense, but man, he makes up for it on the other end. I was listening to Raja Bell talk. I gotta work on my transitions there. I just transitioned so quickly. But I was listening to Raja Bell talk on the Ringer NBA show. And he was talking about defense, and he said, what they will teach you is your best defense won't beat their best offense. Right? And that's the Jokic approach, essentially. You can defend me as greatly as you'd like, but my best on offense is going to beat that. And so why would I work on defense when your best is going to beat me there? All I need to do is beat you on the other end. And I'm 7 foot and I can shoot threes and pass and score inside. And I've got good footwork. I've got good vision. So, and I can set good screens. And I've got good guards around me. So Denver has the pieces. I think they just got to figure out the role thing. who does what for us outside of, Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. And they will. And they'll be a tough out in the playoffs. Yeah. The NBA, it's with the shortened season, I think teams are really just now starting to get that feel like, okay, now we make our moves. Now we start making those mid-season adjustments to start positioning ourselves to land an XYZ position in the playoffs. And the only person that doesn't matter for is LeBron. Because he can land, as long as he lands in the playoffs, watch out. He could land in the 8th seed. Watch out. Anthony Davis turns the lights off in games for a while, huh? Stretches of games where it's like, where the hell is Anthony Davis? The quote-unquote, next guy in LA. Quote-unquote best big man in the league. Man, turn it on, dude. Find your switch. When you've been absent for 4 games in a row, you can't do that. I mean, you can do it right now because you play next to LeBron James, but he's not going to be there for forever. And when he's gone, you certainly can't be turning it off for 4 games in a row, bro. That shit isn't going to work out well. I'm not a big Anthony Davis guy. I never have been. These Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Davis types obviously can be big pieces and very utilitarian and very good for a team. But, God, those 2 players are kind of soft. Or at least they're like non-motivated versions of themselves are very soft. Get in the paint, man. Draw fouls. I don't know. Just something to think about. LeBron's so fucking tough. Night in and night out. And I know people are like, oh, he's soft. He's always begging for fouls. Hey, man. He's missed 1 finals in the past how many years? Hey, man. He's LeBron fucking James. He's the most durable athlete I've ever seen. He and Brady. Even Brady took a year off. LeBron took that half year off when he first got into LA, and that looked like more, hey, let's get Josh Hart and these fuckers out of here. Remember Josh Hart? Remember him being the next Draymond Green? Heard that a billion fucking times. Guess what he is down in New Orleans? Nothing. LA does that, and it's so fucking annoying. Do you know how annoying it was when the Lakers were bad and they had these like mediocre guys that they were just turning into goats of social media? God, the LA market. Some some Laker fans are awful, man. Their takes, and one of my buddies gives me a lot of shit. He's like, Jazz fans are the worst. They always think they have a chance, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you want to know what, man? Not easy being a Jazz fan. You know what it is easy to be? A Laker fan. And you know what else? Even when you're bad, everyone treats your superstars or like the best player on your team like they deserve to be all-stars. Or like they're the future of the NBA. When the Jazz are bad and they have one good player, you want to know what that guy is? A guy who gets empty calorie stats. That's the truth. But Josh Hart was going to be the next Draymond Green. So annoying. That's another reason I'm not going to do the fucking Laker thing and the big market bullshit. Because you're getting enough of it. And a lot of it's crap. A lot of it's garbage. It's people who aren't true fans of the league talking about guys out of pocket to get more coverage. I'm not going to do it. I'll have 5 listeners for my whole life, and I will not subscribe to the fucking Josh Hart is the next Draymond Green type argument. Not going to do it, dude. So, yeah. There you have it. That's going to be, and I think I just kind of gave a rough outline because I wasn't really prepared to go super deep into my NBA stuff, but that's it for the day. Thank you for listening. Dom, you probably listened because you're cool like that. I know you listened, Eric. I want to bring Eric on for some sports talks. Talk some NBA gambling. He's great on the NBA. So thanks for listening, Eric. Anyone else who listened, thanks. If you're like a stranger who stumbled upon this and actually made it to this point, comment your name. I'll give you a shout out. Fuck it. I got nothing better to do. So, thanks for listening. Peace.